Hey everyone, welcome to the Daily Dose. Glad you're here. Today I'm going to be looking at a passage out of Matthew chapter 20. And it's a familiar theme that we see Jesus share at different times during his earthly ministry. And it's really talking about how we position ourselves in life. Do we position ourselves as first, or do we position ourselves somewhere after that? And he shares often about how it is our mind and our thinking should be, that we should not be striving to be the first. We should not be striving to be ahead of everybody else, but we should have a mindset or an understanding of how is it that my life or God can use me in the lives of someone else. And if he's going to do that, it's very rarely that you're going to be first. Now, first, it's pretty intoxicating. I mean, I can look at the different times in my life that I wanted to be first. Now, and some of them were, in the moment they were important in competition. You want to be first. You want to win. And I remember early on, the first time experience I had that was with what we called field day as a young kid in elementary school. And when we got toward the end of the school year, when the weather warmed up and we had this whole day of what we just competed. We had a ball throw, we had like a 50-yard dash, we had long jump, broad jump, three-legged races, all these things, and you got a ribbon. And it went, I think was all the way down to like 5th place, a blue ribbon, first place, red ribbon, second place, and it went all the way down to you were getting yellow, pink, different white ribbons, and you competed for those, and among your buddies you kept track of who had the most blue ribbons or who got the most ribbons overall. And that idea of being first, it's not something that's just unimportant to us. It's ingrained in who we are. In our human nature. And if you go through your life, you can look at the times where you were willing to do whatever it took for you to have what you wanted. And sometimes that meant moving around somebody else. Sometimes that meant taking advantage of a situation. When Teresa and I were married at the very beginning, we had a couple of trips that we took that were important to us as a family. And one of them was when we went to Disney World. And I remember the thought was, for whatever reason, we had this thought. We drove that day and we got to Orlando. We spent the night. We kind of drove in down the main road at Disney World so you could see all the entrances. And we had conspired that night that we were going to be at the front of the line the next morning. Now, tens of thousands of people go to Disney World every day. And we were thinking, we're going to be right up there in the front. We're going to be the first people in this park. And so the next morning, we got up early, we had our breakfast, and we drove in, and it happened. There was just us and a few other cars right at the very front of the line. And I can't tell you the sense of satisfaction that I had. And we were there early, okay? So we're sitting there for a long time before the park opens. That's how you get to be first in place. You're not getting there and just driving in and getting into the park. You're there and you're waiting until the people show up to let you in. But that whole time we were waiting there, man, I'm sitting there, I am filled with pride. I'm looking to those people behind us and I'm thinking, losers, how dare you wait this long to get in this line? This is the happiest place on earth. This means something. And I carried that with me all day. I would see people, and in my mind I'm thinking, yeah, you probably only got to ride like 4 rides because you didn't get here till 30 minutes before the park opened. But it was just that satisfaction of being first. It didn't mean anything. I mean, I didn't get a ribbon, didn't get a trophy. There's no recognition as you're driving through, paying your parking fee, and the attendant there taking it is not saying, hey, way to go, you were the first in line. There's no recognition for that, but it meant something. And so when we read this passage this came up time and time again. You remember James and John and their mom want to know, hey, who's going to be first? Who's going to have that position of preeminence when you come into your kingdom? And Jesus shared in a moment when he talked about rulers, and it was in connection with James and John's mother's request. And he said, listen, the way that we lead and the way that we live, those who are in a relationship with God and those who see the world the way God does, it's different with us. And he says, you know, the foreign rulers, okay, those who don't know God, those who don't follow him, like to order their people around, and their great leaders have full power over everyone they rule. But don't act like them. If you want to be great, you must be a servant to others. And if you want to be first, you must be a servant to the rest. The Son of Man did not come to be a slave master, but a servant who will give his life to rescue many. And so this is something that we all have to contend with every day, because it's with us. Whether it's, being first in line at Disney World, which means absolutely nothing in life at all, or whether competing for other things. Now, don't get me wrong, you need to, wherever you are, strive for excellence, because excellence honors God and it inspires people. But in this context, you say, because the idea is, what's my motivation for this? And I wish one of the conversations I could have sometime with Jesus would be, on these sayings and why he didn't. What I think he would say here is, I don't want you to be this person. I don't want you to be a person of humility. I don't want you to be a person who puts other people before you and is concerned about the needs of others. I don't want you to do that because I've commanded you to do that. I think he would say is, I want you to do it because you want to do it. It's not something I'm doing to try to build up points with God. It's not something I'm doing so I can, at the end of the day, when I'm grading my Christianity inventory, that, hey, I did a good thing today. But it just becomes the nature of who I am. That when opportunities come, and they'll come, when they do, for me to serve or to assist someone else, I will. Now, there are times in our lives where that's not always going to be, what is called for. I mean, there are times you're going to excel. There are times you're going to get recognition. There are times, those things are going to happen in your life, personally, professionally, within your walk with God. That's going to happen. But there are all those times to be able to recognize them and to see them when, in that moment, your purpose is not to be first, but your purpose at that moment is to be whatever it takes for someone else to experience what God has for them in that moment. Not because we're commanded to do it, but because it's something we want to do. When I was a kid, my mother would have, things that I should do, whether it's I should behave a certain way, or I should do a certain thing, or I should take care of different things around our house or as chores. And often, like little boys do, and I would ask the question, well, why? Why do you want me to do this? And then I would do it, and I would do it begrudgingly, and I would do it with an attitude, or I would do it in anger, or I would do it in a way that was clearly visible that I did it, but I'm not happy with it, and I'm angry, and I'm not happy with you for making me do this. And I would say something at the end of that chore, I did it, are you happy? And my mom would say, no. I said, what do you mean? I did it. And she goes, Mark, I don't want you to do things because I tell you to do them. I want you to do things because you want to do them. I want you to do things, some of the things that my mom wanted me to do were just like everyday things, to pick up after myself, to make my bed, to take care of the place that we lived, and to do those types of things. Not because she told me to do that, but because I wanted to do that, because I knew she needed help. Because I knew that I needed to do my part as a part of this family, and that I would want to do those things. And so when we live like this, to put others first, to take the opportunities in our lives, not to be first. It's not the attitude, hey, I'm going to do this because this is what God tells me to do, or because this is what He expects of me. I mean, if you do that, you'll get it done and you'll do it. But I think maybe the blessing or the thing that God really wants to accomplish in our lives, we miss because He wants us to do it, not because we're told, but because when He's changing us, transforming us, building us into the likeness of Christ, we develop that understanding of this is something I want to do to honor God, to bring glory to God, to please Him, and to help this person and to bring honor to Him. So think about the things that you have an opportunity to serve someone else, and look at it and think, am I doing this to check a box, or am I doing this because it's just kind of the outpouring and the overflow of the person that God is changing me into? All right. Well, you guys have a great day and enjoy your time, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.